Maya had always known that living next door to her mother-in-law, Mrs. Sharma, would come with challenges. But nothing could have prepared her for the storm that was about to engulf her life on that sweltering Tuesday morning in July. The 4-bedroom house on Maple Street had been a wedding gift from Maya's mother, Dr. Priya Patel, a successful cardiologist who had saved for years to give her daughter the perfect start to married life. The deed was clearly in Maya's name, a fact that had always been a thorn in Mrs. Sharma's side. "Maya!" The sharp voice cut through the morning air as Mrs. Sharma stormed through the front door without knocking. Her face flushed with indignation. Behind her trailed her daughter, Kavya, looking sheepish but determined. Maya looked up from her laptop where she'd been working on her graphic design project, her coffee growing cold beside her. "Good morning, Mrs. Sharma. Is everything all right?" "Everything is most certainly not all right." Mrs. Sharma's voice rose to a pitch that could shatter glass. "My Kavya's husband has thrown her out. She needs somewhere to stay, and this house has plenty of room." Maya's heart sank. She'd heard about Kavya's marital troubles through the neighborhood gossip network, but she hadn't expected this direct confrontation. "I'm sorry to hear about Kavya's situation, but nothing," Mrs. Sharma interrupted, her jewelry jingling as she gestured dramatically. "You have been married to my son for 3 years, and what do you have to show for it? No children. No contribution to this family. Meanwhile, my daughter, who has given birth to 2 beautiful grandchildren, is homeless." Kavya shifted uncomfortably by the door. "Ma, maybe we should discuss this more calmly." "Don't you start with me, beta," Mrs. Sharma snapped at her daughter before turning back to Maya. "This house is too big for just 2 people anyway. I'm not asking, I'm telling you. Kavya and her children will be moving into the master bedroom. You can take the small room upstairs." Maya felt her blood pressure rising. "Mrs. Sharma, with all due respect, this is my house. My mother bought it for me. Kavya is welcome to stay in the guest room temporarily, but I won't be displaced from my own bedroom." The older woman's eyes narrowed dangerously. Your house. My son lives here too. And blood is thicker than water, beta. Kavya is my flesh and blood. You're just someone who married into this family." For the next week, the tension in the house was suffocating. Mrs. Sharma had convinced Kavya to move in anyway, and the guest room quickly became a disaster zone of toys, clothes, and the chaos that follows 2 young children. Maya found herself tiptoeing around her own home, constantly cleaning up after her unwelcome house guests. Arjun, Maya's husband, seemed oblivious to the brewing storm. A software engineer who worked long hours, he'd come home exhausted, eat dinner in silence, and retreat to his computer for more work. Whenever Maya tried to discuss the situation, he'd wave her off with a tired, "They're family, Maya. We have to help." But Mrs. Sharma wasn't satisfied with the current arrangement. She wanted complete victory. "I've been thinking," she announced one evening as Maya was preparing dinner, "and I've come to a decision. This arrangement isn't working. Kavya needs stability for her children, and frankly, Maya, you've been nothing but hostile since they arrived." Maya nearly dropped the pan she was holding. "Hostile? I've been accommodating house guests who moved in without my permission." "House guests?" Mrs. Sharma's voice dripped with venom. "This is exactly the attitude I'm talking about. Kavya is not a house guest. She's family. And since you clearly can't share your space graciously, I think it's time for you to find somewhere else to live." The kitchen fell silent except for the bubbling of the curry on the stove. Maya stared at her mother-in-law in disbelief. "You want me to leave my own house?" "It would be temporary, of course," Mrs. Sharma said with false sweetness. "Just until Kavya gets back on her feet. Maybe you could stay with your mother. I'm sure Dr. Patel has plenty of room in her big house." "This is insane," Maya whispered, her hands shaking. Arjun, come here." Her husband appeared in the doorway, still in his work clothes, looking annoyed at being disturbed. "What's all the shouting about?" Mrs. Sharma immediately switched to her sweet, motherly tone. "Beta, I was just explaining to Maya that it might be better if she stayed with her mother for a while. just until Kavya's situation improves. Arjun looked between his wife and his mother, clearly wanting to avoid the conflict. Can't we all just get along? There's enough room for everyone. No, beta, Mrs. Sharma said firmly. Maya has made it clear she doesn't want us here. It's better this way. Maya felt her world crumbling. Arjun, you can't seriously be considering this. This is our home. My mother bought this house for us. It's just temporary, Maya, Arjun said weakly. Maybe it would be good for you to spend some time with your mother anyway. You're always saying you don't see her enough. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. Maya stared at her husband, the man she'd loved enough to marry, to build a life with, and saw a stranger. Coward. That night, Maya called her mother through tears, explaining the impossible situation. Dr. Patel listened in growing fury before speaking in a voice cold enough to freeze fire. Pack your bags, beta. Come home tonight. But first, call your lawyer. Ma, I don't want to divorce Arjun. I love him. This isn't about divorce yet, her mother said grimly. This is about protecting what's yours. That house is in your name. They cannot force you out of property you own. Period. The next morning, Maya returned to the house with her lawyer, Mr. Gupta, a sharp-dressed man with kind eyes and a reputation for not losing cases involving property disputes. Mrs. Sharma met them at the door with her arms crossed. You brought a lawyer. How dramatic. Mrs. Sharma, Mr. Gupta said politely, I need to inform you that you and your daughter are currently occupying a property without the owner's permission. This constitutes trespassing. Trespassing. Mrs. Sharma laughed bitterly. My son lives here. Your son has no legal claim to this property, Mr. Gupta continued calmly. The house is solely in Mrs. Maya Sharma's name. She has the right to determine who stays and who goes. Kavya emerged from the guest room, her children clinging to her legs. Maya, please. I have nowhere else to go. Maya felt her resolve wavering until she saw Arjun appear behind his sister, his face set in sullen defiance rather than support for his wife. I want everyone except my husband out of this house by tomorrow evening, Maya said clearly. Kavya, I'm sorry about your situation, but I've offered the guest room temporarily. If that's not acceptable, you'll need to find other arrangements. Mrs. Sharma's face turned purple with rage. How dare you? Arjun, are you going to let your wife speak to your family like this? All eyes turned to Arjun. This was his moment to choose. His wife or his mother's unreasonable demands. Maya held her breath, hoping against hope that he would finally stand up for their marriage. Arjun looked at the floor and mumbled, maybe Maya's being unreasonable. These are extraordinary circumstances. Maya felt something inside her break completely. That evening, Maya sat in her childhood bedroom at her mother's house, staring at divorce papers. 3 years of marriage, and when it mattered most, her husband had chosen everyone but her. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Maya, this is Kavya. Can we talk privately? There are things you need to know. They met at a small cafe downtown, away from prying eyes and interfering family members. Kavya looked exhausted and guilty. I never wanted this to happen, Kavya began, her hands wrapped around her coffee cup. But I need you to know the truth about why Ma is so desperate to get you out of that house. Maya waited, her heart pounding. 3 months ago, Arjun came to Ma with a problem. He's been gambling, Maya. Online poker, sports betting, cryptocurrency investments that went wrong. He owes money to some very dangerous people. The world seemed to tilt sideways. What are you talking about? He borrowed money against the house somehow. I don't understand all the legal stuff. But Ma says the only way to save him is to sell the house quickly and quietly. But they can't sell it while you're living there and fighting the sale. Maya's mind raced. So, getting me out was step 1. Ma thought if she could get you to leave voluntarily, they could forge your signature on the sale documents. She knows someone who knows someone. Kavya's voice dropped to a whisper. Maya, they're planning to steal your house. The betrayal was so complete, so devastating, that Maya almost laughed at the absurdity of it. How much does he owe? $200,000. Maya's mother's house was worth nearly twice that. They weren't just stealing her home. They were stealing her entire future. Why are you telling me this? Maya asked. Tears rolled down Kavya's cheeks. Because you've been nothing but kind to me, even when Ma was horrible to you. And because I have children who will grow up knowing their uncle is a thief if this happens. I can't live with that. The next morning, Maya returned to the house with a new purpose. She found Arjun in his office, surrounded by financial documents he quickly tried to hide. Don't bother, Maya said calmly. I know about the gambling. I know about the debt. I know about the plan to steal my house. Arjun's face went white. Maya, I can explain. $200,000, Arjun. You risked our entire life for gambling debts. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, he burst out. I had a system. I was winning for months, and then everything went wrong at once. These people, Maya, they're not the kind you can negotiate with. So you decided to steal from your wife instead of asking for help? I knew you'd never agree to sell the house. And your mother hates me anyway. She'd never lend us the money. Maya studied the man she'd married, seeing him clearly for perhaps the first time. You're right. I wouldn't have agreed to sell the house. But I might have agreed to help my husband if he'd been honest with me. She pulled out her phone and called Mr. Gupta. We need to meet today. And bring a criminal attorney. Maya, what are you doing? Arjun asked, panic creeping into his voice. What you should have done months ago. I'm solving the problem. The meeting took place in Mr. Gupta's office with Maya, her mother, Arjun, Mrs. Sharma, and both attorneys present. Maya had insisted that everything be out in the open. Here's what's going to happen, Maya said, her voice steady and controlled. Arjun has gambling debts totaling $200,000. Rather than asking for help, he conspired with his mother to force me out of my home so they could sell it fraudulently. Mrs. Sharma started to protest, but Maya held up a hand. I have recordings of Kavya explaining the entire plan, including your contact for forged documents. That's conspiracy to commit fraud, which is a felony. The room fell silent. However, Maya continued, I'm prepared to offer a solution. I will take out a loan against the house for the $200,000 needed to pay Arjun's debts. In exchange, Arjun will sign a post-nuptial agreement giving me sole ownership of the house and any future property we acquire together. He will also enter a gambling addiction treatment program and attend counseling, both individual and couples. Arjun looked stunned. You do that? After everything? I'm not doing it for you, Maya said quietly. I'm doing it because despite everything I believe people can change. But this is your one chance, Arjun. Betray me again, and I'll divorce you and pursue criminal charges. She turned to Mrs. Sharma. And you will apologize to me publicly, in front of the entire family, for your behavior. You will also never interfere in my marriage again. If you can't respect me as your son's wife, you'll lose access to both of us. Mrs. Sharma's face cycled through rage, disbelief, and finally grudging respect. You're tougher than I gave you credit for, Beta. I had to be, Maya replied. You made sure of that. Maya stood in her kitchen in her house, preparing dinner for her mother's visit. The guest room now served its proper purpose, hosting Dr. Patel, who came bi-weekly to check on her daughter. Arjun had kept his word. He'd entered treatment, attended every counseling session, and slowly begun rebuilding the trust he'd shattered. It wasn't easy, and some days Maya wondered if she'd made the right choice. But she'd learned something important about herself through the ordeal. She was stronger than she'd ever imagined. Mrs. Sharma had indeed apologized, though it had taken her 3 months to work up to it. Their relationship would never be warm, but it was civil now, built on mutual respect rather than forced politeness. Kavya had reconciled with her husband after they'd gone through counseling, and she sent Maya a card every month thanking her for her kindness during the darkest period of her life. As Maya set the table, She reflected on how the worst betrayal of her life had ultimately become a gift. She'd discovered her own strength, set boundaries she should have established years ago, and learned that sometimes the most shocking thing you can do is show grace in the face of cruelty. The doorbell rang, and Maya smiled as she went to welcome her mother home. After all, this was her house. And now everyone knew it.